flesh, he said, the blood have given to you upon the altar to make atonement for your souls. Okay? Now that is the Old Testament principle for the whole sacrificial system. It's found in the book of Leviticus, and of course, when was the last time we all had devotions in the book of Leviticus? I jokingly tell people in churches is that, I gotta be careful because I don't want to embarrass because it's the book where the pages are still stuck together. But I'm careful of that because some people say, I'm offended. I have read Leviticus. Oh, good. I've been here. But for the most part, it's a book that's kind of boy, it deals with all these different sacrifices and all this stuff and all that, and in fact, this past. Nicodemus says, John 3:16, that's his key. He always goes there. And he always brags about me. My son, I tell you, he's not even Jewish, but I tell you, you would think he's Jewish, everything else. But he always talks about when he teaches salesmen, you got to close. You got to close. You got to give it a challenge. Does that make sense? Is there anything that you don't understand that we covered? That you know? What is holding you back from actually receiving, trusting the Lord now? And some people get intimidated by that point there, right? It's scary. They go, well, think about it. I'm not sure. And then some people get pushy, some people back off, whatever. So keep in mind, at one point in your witnessing experience, if it's going to be you're the one, the contact person, you have to make that challenge. So someone read that verse there.
Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near.
Right. So, while he's near, seek, be, always being there, make it, something that, you kind of close the whole message there. So here is the Menorah gospel presentation, okay? What I believe, and then you bring out the Menorah. Oh, wow, they know what that is, But you start from right to left, and of course you want to start off by saying the middle one speaks about that, the Lord will provide, the Lord will show. And then the first one here on the right is that we're all sinners. Okay? And so you read the text that I have there. Unless you can find another text that you're comfortable with, that's fine, okay? And then sin causes separation. Okay? And then sin, there's not a thing we can do about it because all our efforts is what? Filthy rags. They come short of God's perfection. We have to be perfect, and nobody's perfect. This is where I say, we're not perfect. We're all messed up. And then most people say, and they'll start talking about their in-laws and this and that. Who knows what? Okay. But then you say, but God took the initiative to make it possible so that we can have access to God. And it's recorded in the Hebrew Scriptures, and it's all fulfilled coming into the New Testament. The new writers, it was written by Jews, with the exception maybe Luke, but Luke wrote his gospel more Jewish than the other guys. Okay? He's the non-Jewish, he's the Greek guy, but he's the one that went and talked to everybody who was an eyewitness, and he says he wrote in order, right? The word order. He wrote it in chronological sequence, the event. And he put a lot of the Jewish emphasis in there. But hey, they were Jewish guys who wrote. Okay, so now you come in and he said, okay, God has provided what? The atonement, the sacrificial system, Leviticus 17:11. And then he also, what's the second one here? Isaiah 53, and here's a prophecy from the Old Testament. Isaiah, 700 years before this historic person by the name of Jesus appeared on the scene. This is what he said. You tell me, who is this being described in this context? There was a rabbi in New York by the name of Rabbi Schneerson. He was the head guy of this really ultra-Orthodox group that you see in New York, they're really something else. The Orthodox, they're like the Pentecostals of the Judaism. They dance and sing and jump all over the place. They get crazy. Plus, they have a little schnapp too to help them. I mingled among that crowd one time. Boy, dancing. Men dance with men, women dance with women. I paced myself against the wall, and they were forming circles within circles. There's one guy grabbed me. And of course, they follow the one with the scrolls. You know the scroll? You know, the answer scroll. And they're all going all over. And you know what happened? I got handed the scroll. You know, I was wearing my dark suit. I had a friend of mine, we went together. And he kept jumping around. I was doing some Irish chick, I don't know. Jumping around. And he says, oh, if they only knew who you are. And you go like that. And I'm like this, you know. And everybody's following me. Oh, what an experience that was. Oh, man, oh, man. So he goes, why don't you just march them out to the church? And I went and I gave it to someone real quick. And then we backed out. And we went out down the street. Whew, whoa, wow. Man, oh, man. So, yeah. So, Isaiah 53. And then, of course, you know, prepare to give a challenge, you know, a closing challenge, you know, to say, would you like to receive the Lord now? Is there anything holding you back? I mean, you know, I know it's hard words, but, you know, if you could say these words after me, but make it your words, you know, you make sure that it's not a formula, you know, by saying the words. Believe, you know, say it comes from your heart, okay? And don't expect any lightning bolts or, you know, craziness like that. But say it from your heart. And that's how I've seen Jewish folks come to know the Lord on that basis.